It depends on the community. In some places they have kind of a culture of collaboration and they're used to working together. In other places they operate in these parallel universes as we talked about before. I think a lot of it depends on personal relationships. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people and they say, like this gentleman I talked to today, Joe, he said, well, you know, me and so-and-so at the city council, we go back 20 years or more to when we were in high school together. I've heard in other places where the school board representative said he can just pick up the phone and talk to the guy at Parks and Recreation about building sites together because they used to work together at Parks and Rec. So some of it has to do with culture, some of it has to do with something as simple as personal relationships. And then I also think that you have to have some mechanisms to facilitate collaboration. If there's no mechanism there, no forum for people to meet and exchange information and talk about working together, it makes it more challenging. I think they realize how hard it is to work together. I don't know if they realize how easy it is to work together. Because again, especially in these times with tight budgets and people are often doing the work of 1.5 or 2 people due to cutbacks, you know, they don't have time to work with another municipality. They don't have time to collaborate with their neighbors. It's just easier to stay in your own little world and do what you're asked to do, and it complicates things when you step out of that world. And also, I think there aren't the same incentives there for municipalities. If you're a planner in a municipality, you're not going to be rewarded for building bridges, not literally, with your neighborhood, with your neighboring jurisdiction, but for fulfilling your other job responsibilities in a timely way. So if you said, well, yeah, I didn't get that project done, but I am in good terms with Smithfield now, that might not go over so well with your superiors. Well, yeah, you have to establish performance criteria at the very beginning. Say, as part of your job, we expect you to maintain good relations with the planners in the other jurisdictions so that we can work better together and achieve certain efficiencies in our planning and our investment. I mean, one of the big issues that's pushing municipalities to even think about working across boundaries is that there are so many issues: traffic, unemployment, air quality, water supply, picking up trash, that span jurisdictional boundaries, and they're not limited to one little municipality. So I think in today's world, especially if we think globally about things like global climate change, we can't just always operate within our own comfort zone, within our own municipal boundaries and our own job description. There's been a lot of research looking at the impact of school siting on performance, but it's not so much on the location of the school, it's more on the school building itself. Do kids who attend larger schools do better or worse than kids who attend smaller schools? And I would say the jury's still out on that. From what I've read, kids who attend small schools do at least as good, and in many cases better, than those who attend larger schools. And they also have more opportunities to get involved in extracurricular or after-school activities, kids in bigger schools. There's another disadvantage with citing larger schools in that parents, particularly low-income parents who may have to work 2 jobs, or they don't have an extra car or whatever, they can't always get as involved in the school for the betterment of their children if they have to drive there. You know, often there isn't public transportation. So you find that parents tend to be more involved in the smaller schools, as well as kids who are more involved. And that tends to lead to better educational outcomes. Well, there are a number of things happen nationally that are encouraging. One is just raising the level of awareness and kind of focusing a spotlight on schools. For a long time, selection of sites for schools was solely the province of schools, districts themselves. But now you see municipalities and the National Trust for Historic Preservation and the public health community and the environmental community are all getting interested in how schools are sited because of the implications in so many different areas. At the national level, you see EPAs developing guidelines, voluntary guidelines for school siting. You have a national trade organization, the Council for Environmental Facility Planners International, based in Scottsdale, Arizona, they have rescinded some of the requirements that no longer seem to make sense. For example, the minimum acreage requirements that many states have adopted. So they've made changes. In terms of public health, let me go back. The states are also making changes. Several states have done away with their minimum acreage requirements, which tend to cause schools to be built on very large sites out in the fringe. So you have national agencies, national organizations, and state governments all recognizing that we need to change the way we build schools. That is, we need to get away from building large schools on very large sites that are far away from the children they serve. At the local level, you see more and more local districts changing the way they site schools. I mentioned an example in my presentation in Raleigh, North Carolina, where they have a school built on a 4-acre site. It's a wonderful little Moore Square Museum magnet school. And then other organizations like the public health community is getting involved in school siting. I've been collaborating with some public health researchers at North Carolina looking at school siting issues from a public health angle. So schools are kind of, again, under a spotlight or a microscope, they might feel, for a number of different reasons. The public health community is looking for ways that children can become more active because they're looking at the rising level of obesity and exploring different ways that kids might be more active on a day-to-day basis, and one of those ways is to walk to and from school. They're also looking at things like school lunches and gym classes, which seem to be weeded out from high schools. Not as many kids have to or have the opportunity to participate in gym classes anymore. So there are a number of things happening at the local, state, and federal level that I think are positive. That schools, again, are asked to do many things. They're asked to preserve historic schools, provide educational opportunities for the children, provide physical activity. They're asked to do so much. But parents have to understand that where schools are built has an impact on transportation, on how kids get to and from the school, on air quality, on a number of different things. Parents are looking for neighborhood schools now, it seems like. We all want our kids to go to the closest school that we have some control over. Our kids can walk or bike there. The irony is most parents don't feel comfortable letting their kids walk to school. So I think there needs to be some joint efforts on the part of, or some outreach from the school to parents about how that walk or bike to school could be made safer for those kids in order for it to happen. Otherwise, parents will continue to drive their kids to school as they do now.